Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video, I'm going to making sure you are ready for the start of Season 2 here in patch 9.1. Now, by no means do you have to do everything I'm going to mention. The things range in importance depending on what kind of content you like to do, merely presenting the information to you. The first thing I'll start with is Mythic Plus, because the way this works can be a bit confusing to players who don't keep up with every update and every video guide made all the time. First things first, can you start getting Mythic Raid level loot from Mythic Plus this week, the week before Mythic Raid comes out? That answer is overall no, with a caveat. The end of dungeon loot is capped at plus 10. You may wonder why there's such a cap, and frankly this is because the Mythic Raid is not tuned for people to have full gear going into it. You may think, why not? The reasons are nuanced and I could explain them all, but the TLDR is that if it was tuned for you to be in your best in slot to clear it, hardly any guilds would ever complete the content, no matter how much bashing their head into the wall they did. Of course, I'm not talking about Limit and Echo here. I'm talking about, guilds 500 through 1,000 having a really tough time clearing it, especially maybe two night a week guilds. The mechanics in Mythic WoW raids are just very complex, frankly. Casual players often say they are too complex because the talent at the top tier of Mythic raiding actually demands it. They also usually introduce ways to overgear the raid to deal with these mechanics, such as corruption or domination gear. So because of that, loot is capped before Mythic Raid week. However, you can obtain one juicy piece of loot from your vault by running your plus 15 still. You won't get end of dungeon rewards that equal the difficulty that you're doing, but you will get the Great Vault loot next week. Should also be noted that you can't use Valor to upgrade past the cutoff level either for this week. Up next, the raid is here. This could be an extremely crucial moment in the history of WoW, dealing with one of its main characters in Sylvanas. Beyond that, you should know that heroic and normal difficulties will be unlocked. Normal should be puggable if you have the gear and are casual and maybe wanted to raid this tier. Heroic will be difficult, and only the really skilled guilds and really high-end guilds will get their AOTC week 1, or people who just raid every day to try to get it week 1 might be able to bash their heads and get it. To prep for the raid, I actually recommend doing this pineapple game that goes over the basic mechanics of each fight. I'll link it in the description below. This raid actually looks quite fun to me. I watched a lot of the testing and people seem to be pretty happy with it in nearly all regards. I did hear is a bit undertuned in testing, so it'll all be about how the raid is tuned on how good it is. Luckily, if there's one thing Blizzard has done right for many expansions now, it is overall tuning raids. Back to the Sylvanas point real quick. I'm at the point lore-wise where I don't even care what happens to Sylvanas. I'm actually intrigued very much by where they're going with the Loon and the Jailer, and some of these cosmic questions we have been asking for nearly 2 decades at this point. The new Mega Dungeon is here, Talzavesh. This will not be a Mythic Plus dungeon for this season, and the loot will not be Valor upgradable. This is just a standalone content for anyone who wants to do it. There will be opportunities for upgrades technically for even high-end players as it drops 226 eye level and hard mode 233. You weren't supposed to be able to do hard mode week 1. It has an unlock that you will do during the dungeon, but apparently there is some buggy way to skip this. We'll see if that is fixed or if you can bug your way to hard mode next week, week 1 of the dungeon. If so, you'll see many people running it to get the 233 eye level loot. That's more of a high-end focus though. The truth is this is an amazing dungeon. They put so much into these and it's sad to see them get put to the pasture so quickly. I've seen a lot of suggestions about the mega dungeons, but I think honestly to make them 5-man raids. Heroic Talzavesh would drop and be tuned similar to a heroic raid. Mythic Talzavesh similar to a mythic raid. And honestly have a normal Talzavesh that gave normal level raid style gear. Would be amazing for people trying to get started into raiding. 5 people is easier to find than 10 and possibly could do with real life friend group at a 5-man. Another Tourgas wing is open. The revamp of Tourgas has caused me to see reactions from net positive to pretty neat to I like it. So overall, fairly positive. I'm sure there are still some Tourgas haters out there, however, and that is fine, but I think the changes were good. This week you can gather more Soul Cinders, but the wing is more difficult. Check the eye level and see that even if you're in the end game gear, it's starting to push it to its limits. There's also some fuss about time gating the Tourgas wings. I do get it, but for whatever is worth, good or bad, WoW is a progression-based game. They want you to get more gear, to do harder Tourgas wings, to unlock more rewards. That's the general theme. I like that, as that's kind of what made me love WoW, the progression of it. But a lot of people don't, and that's fine too. Courthia and Assault. They're still here. Many folks have complained about there not being enough to do in Courthia, and I think that comes more from the way people consume games these days than there actually not being enough to do. The way I imagine any patched game works that is in it for the long haul is how much content is there to do over the course of the entire patch. Whereas I think players want to do all the content in a week. I'm being hyperbolic there, but in a week. Then go to another game and do all the content in another week. Then complain that there isn't enough content to do. That is at least the pattern I see. For me personally, I actually like the grind of Courthia, so I've spent way too much time there this week. Not as sweaty as maybe like top end people have been doing, but I am just about at tier 4 of my Archivist rep as I record this video. The first day, to do literally everything available, including the rifts and the assaults and everything else, everything available took me 4 to 6 hours. I don't remember exactly. I did take a break in between. Add another hour every day for doing the rares and the grinding that I actually enjoy, and then another 30 plus minutes for the mini assault. Switch over on what would be Friday in NA. That would be about 10.5 hours of playtime for this week. While that's just a day or two for some people, for others it's more time than they have to play in a week. It's hard to balance those two realities, I'm sure. Because of time, I usually only play one other game than WoW at a time. Currently, I'm still enjoying Fallout 76, but I play that game 0 to 2 hours a week, as an example of time people might have to play. Anyway, keep plugging away at your Dust Advance and your Archivist Codex reputations to get whatever level you need to be for the rewards you need for the content you play. Same as always there. The MSQ, Covenant Campaign, can be progressed further. This will unlock more things in Courthia as well. Now, maybe I'm alone here, but this story has actually been unironically good. Venari's stuff in particular was very enjoyable on day 1. I've actually already did it on the PTR, but I think overall people will like this next chapter. Conclusions. I have very much enjoyed the patch so far. There have been bugs, and that is never good. And bugs don't need to be or should be defended, so you won't find that here. Instead, I will say that I have often thought Blizzard should pay endgame players to test the game for them internally. Don't even rely on the PTR. I don't think the minds of the average Blizz employee works the same as the sweatiest raider or PvPer or Mythic Pluser. They'll find bugs you didn't even know could exist. They will try things others won't think to try. I think if there was no bugs, the complaint would just be time gating or not enough content, which I already went over. If those are the only complaints, then it is a pretty good patch release, and as I don't think you can really avoid those specific complaints in this specific game. But yeah, that's about it for this video. As always, I do ask you to subscribe to the channel because it helps me out so much, and good luck in Season 2.